Hello and welcome to the Broad Street Hockey Podcast. I am your host, Ryan Gilbert. Joining me, as always, is my co-host, Joe DeMarini. Joe, how we doing on this rainy Monday here in Philadelphia?
I changed into sweatpants as soon as I got home from work. I was like, I'm not messing around. I wasn't going to cook dinner tonight, but I was like, I want to turn on the oven just so I can like heat up the apartment without having to turn on the heat. So, I'm trying to be real efficient and economic here.
Yeah, there's definitely no Mr. Softy truck parked outside your apartment or circling my house today. It's
God.
It was what was it? Saturday, Sunday, one of the days when it's like barely kind of warm. They're like, all right, let's get out there. Let's try to charge people $7 for an ice cream cone.
Don't worry, I am absolutely sure he's going to park on my intersection at like 6:30 p.m., 7 p.m. tonight.
Yeah, perfect time there for semester. Yeah, I'm doing all right. Yeah, rainy Monday. We were saying just before we hopped on, feels like it's been a bit. We haven't recorded since last Friday, not this most recent Friday, but 10 days ago or so. And the Flyers have not won a game since then. They did score a few goals. They got a point, but did not win a game since then. But the good news is you could have made money on them betting against them at BetOnline, who's the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for betting on all the madness. Whether you're a seasoned fan or a first-time bettor, BetOnline is your ultimate game day companion with the largest selection of odds on everything from college basketball to a $200,000 bracket contest. BetOnline continues to be your number one sports betting source. From every Cinderella story to every hat trick, BetOnline has you covered with odds, stats, and more for every game, every play, and every win. BetOnline, the game starts here. All right, and I want to start with something that I just think this happened last night in Los Angeles. Let goalies fight. What are these referees doing? What like referees they get into scrums a bit too much, like at post whistle scrums. But when the goalies are both at center ice, fucking jawing at each other, let them go.
Let him go.
Let them go.
Nothing is worse than last season when they stopped Jordan Binnington and Marc-Andre Fleury from fighting. Marc-Andre Fleury is retiring at the end of this season, right?
Yeah.
And he has been in the league for, 22 years or something crazy? Like, just forever. Not a single goalie fight in his illustrious career. And that was his one shot at it. I don't think they're going to humor him with another one. That was his chance, and the referees robbed us of that opportunity. Fuck you, refs.
Yeah, he should have got into a fight with Crosby or something in his last game in Pittsburgh. Or he plays he's gonna start tomorrow against Vegas on Tuesday night. Maybe he'll get a fight against his former team there. I'm not sure if they got a hat trick last game, but as of Saturday, the Golden Knights had a hat trick in 3 straight games or 3 straight home games or something with Hurdle, Dorofeyev, someone else. Like the Golden Knights, every single year they seem to just be reloading and being a threat in the West.
They're real good, and they are consistently real good, except for that one year where they missed the playoffs. But
yeah, I mean that's the thing we talked about. Like they don't have to have the culture or whatever, the familyness of the Flyers. They can be cutthroat. They can just go for it every year, and that's working for them. Some news today. Elliot Friedman said on 32 Thoughts that the Philly has the inside track on Michigan State forward Carson Dorwart, who he mentioned last week or in the last podcast as well. Thomas Williams wrote that up on BroadStreetHockey.com. Check that out there. I saw Michigan State won in double overtime or something against Ohio State to win their game. 22 years old, 6'1" center, been a top 6. 27 points in 38 games during his freshman year. This season has 27 points in 33 games. So, you could see some of these college guys. If there's a college guy that wants to sign with the Flyers, sure, let's give him a crack.
Yeah, I mean, signing those college free agents is, it can be a little dicey because they're usually on the older side, so they look like they're performing really well at the NCAA level. But then when they get to the pros, it's like can't quite do it. We've seen that play out with Massimo Rizzo. Like he had a dynamite last season with Denver, right?
I think Denver, yeah.
Yeah. And then he's just kind of been in the AHL. So, maybe this guy's got a higher ceiling. But I'm down as long as it doesn't take up a call up because we've only got one left.
Yeah, I mean, there's only one left. Jet Luchenko's season is over, and yeah, these college players, like you see these Hobie Baker winners, like not even make the NHL. So being good in college that doesn't necessarily mean anything. Cole Knubel's putting up good numbers. Alex Bump has been putting up great numbers. I believe Kyle has a stream on him coming out. Might be out already by the time this podcast is released. Coming out Monday night. So make sure you look at that on the YouTube channel. Subscribe there. We're trying to get up to 1,000 subscribers. Hopefully by April, if not by the end of the season. There, some good stuff up there. But yeah, Flyers. I love Rodrigo Abels, but I wouldn't mind seeing a Jet Luchenko or Carson Dorwart. Here. Do you know how to spell Carson, by the way, in Carson Dorwart?
It starts with a K, doesn't it? Like it's
It's
parents
Karsen. So
EN,
it's
right?
not
Yeah.
Carson. There's a K, there's an E instead of an O. So I
Hey,
mean,
at least it's not Karsyn or something like that, you know?
yeah, I could definitely see someone being like that. So yeah, Carson here. I got some good names in the draft coming up, so we'll see if any of them end up on the Flyers here. But
Someone
yeah,
will.
I mentioned it top of the show. 5-game losing streak for the Flyers. They did get a point in Dallas. Just doors blown off for them in Chicago on Sunday with Ivan Fedotov showing he's not an NHL goalie. But we're pretty like, how do you survive a rebuild? Flyers have one win in their last 11 games, 1-9-1 in that stretch, outscored 45-20. I mean, Michkov's been playing well. He's up to 50 points. I was thinking yesterday, like, imagine how bad this season would be if he didn't come over early. So, like, for the sickos that are watching every game, like, what do we do? Because both of us like post out on Blue Sky, like, oh, the Flyers are starting. Here we go again. So, like, what's your mindset going into games? These final 10. There's only 10 left.
Oh, man, only 10. It feels like a lot more than 10 to go. I don't know. I just want to keep seeing improvements from the young players. Like Jamie Drysdale has looked so good, man. Like I think people are finally coming around on it, and I'm like, vindication. Michkov getting points, that's cool. Broke the 50-point mark. Who was the last Flyer to break 50? Did someone break 50 points
I
last?
think it was Renberg.
Oh no, I'm
Oh, the
talking
last
like
Flyer in general.
to have 50 points. I think it's
It
TK.
had to be TK. Let me look
Yeah.
at their last year stats. I think multiple. Yeah, TK, and then Tippett had 53, and Joel
Okay.
Farabee cracked 50. He got 50 on the dot last year.
Yeah, he had like 40 in the first 50 games and then 10 in the last 30, but he's not here anymore.
No.
I don't know. I usually have a book in my hands and I'm like reading while I'm got the game on, or if it looks real bad, I just fire up some video games. I'm like, I'm done. Season's cooked, and I'm just waiting for more draft content to read up on and get that out to you, all you fine people. How about you? What are you doing to survive?
I mean, yeah, like you said, it's not, you're focusing on the game, but it not being your only focus during it. Maybe putting some music on, maybe, like you said, reading a book, having another game on a second screen, trying to, look at the little things. Yeah, see these players, see Michkov, see Konecny finally break his schneid, get off the schneid there, see them together, and they're going to be staying together, hopefully, as Tortorella said. So that'll be good. See these players that we don't know a lot about. So like Jacob Pelletier is someone who I've been banging that drum. You've been banging the Drysdale drum. I've been banging the Pelletier drum for a few weeks to get him off that fourth line, and we finally saw it. We finally saw it on Saturday.
So I just want to say that I don't think the problem is that he's playing on a fourth line. I think the problem is that the fourth line has Nick Delorier. Like
Yes.
that's the
Yeah.
crucial thing. And the Flyers are their hands are tied right now because they have one call up left, and there are a number of prospects that look like they could maybe get that call up. And Garnet Hathaway is injured. They do not have the ability to replace Nick Delorier right now because Garnet Hathaway, they have, what is it? They have 12 healthy forwards, and Nick Delorier is one of them. When Garnet Hathaway comes back, you can get a better fourth line, and I think that would give Pelletier a more fair shake. Hathaway's not like a world beater, but he's a hell of a lot better than Nick Delorier at hockey. So, this is just like a short-term kind of frustration. So if Hathaway, he's skating with the team, I think, non-contact jerseys. So if he can come back soon, I think that would give Peltier a boost. It's not that he's on the fourth line, it's that he has to play with Nick Delorier, and that's going to drag anyone down.
Yeah, that's a good point. Good clarification there. Because when he first made his Flyers debut, he was on the fourth line, but it was with Paling and Hathaway, and I feel like that could be a great fourth line for the Flyers. Maybe next year, maybe once Hathaway gets healthy, if they bring up Luchenko. I saw Jackie Spiegel tweeted that she's hearing Luchenko is expected to be in Lehigh Valley this week. We'll see if he gets any Flyers games the rest of the way. But
oh no, he's going to play in the playoffs, I bet, for the Phantoms.
You don't think he's going to be caught up again?
I mean, they've got only one left, and I think they want to get him the playoff experience, because here's the thing. The other prospects that could get called up have had playoff experience. The Guelph Storm suck. They are terrible. Like, Jed Luchenko does not have playoff experience, really, so I think they might value giving him a little bit of that over, like if Alex Bump signs coming out of this year, or Carson Dorwer signs, or there was one other name Grabenkin. Maybe Grabenkin would want to come up. And yeah, I don't know. I think unless it's like the last 2 or 3 games of the season and it doesn't really matter, that's when they would call him up. And depends when the Phantoms get eliminated, because they ain't getting out of the first round. I bet you that much.
I mean, they were worse last year, and they won the first round. They upset. It may have been Hershey, or they lost in Hershey, but I think it was the Penguins actually. They beat in the first round. But Luchenko playing top minutes against physical opponents in the playoffs in the AHL might be better for him anyway, especially the way this team's going right now. They're playing well, but they're not winning. Maybe some of those easy opponents down the stretch he comes up for a game or two here. But yeah, we'll see what happens there. But yeah, Pelletier, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say Luchenko is going to have ample opportunity, because the top 6 of the Phantoms are on the Flyers right now. Like he'd just be their 1C, because their 1C is Rodrigo Apples. Like that's plenty of opportunity down there.
That's very true. Yeah, but. Yeah, Pelletier, he had a good game on Saturday, not so good game on Sunday, but the whole team had a not so good game on Sunday.
Man, they shit the bed, didn't they?
They really did on Sunday.
Really did.
Yeah, but Pelletier, I went back, I clipped all of his shifts, I watched them. I tried to do a stream on Sunday night that was taken down by YouTube because I was using NHL content. But watching it, he definitely didn't look out of place. He looked like he belonged, and that's just me trying to not overstate it. Like I feel like he looked great. He tried to go to the net front, which is he's 5'9". He's not doing a ton of thing there, but had some good passes. Was always seemed to be in good position. Had a good stick. Was able to read the forecheck and force some turnovers. So he looks like a guy that can be a Brink type. And they already have a Brink, so they need a Pelletier below him. But he's one of these guys that I definitely want to see more of, especially over a guy like Lixell, because I don't think they're going to bring Lixell back. Lixell can probably go somewhere and, play guaranteed NHL minutes on the fourth line. And the Flyers, I think he's 24 or 25 now. Like
5, I think.
He kind of is what he is. So you want to see what Pelletier has. He's an RFA. He'll get 1 or 2 million probably. So yeah, you want to see these different combinations, these guys that, Pelletier didn't really have a chance. It's not really fair to evaluate him with Delorier and Abel. So hopefully he does continue that, but it also leaves someone as the odd man out to play with Abels and Delorier, which has been Tippett's been down there, Lixell's been down there. Like it is tough.
Yeah, I also do kind of want to nip the Pelletier Brink comparison in the bud. I think Brink is a way better playmaker, and Pelletier plays much more of a direct north-south, up and down the ice kind of game than Brink would. They're similar in size, but I think they approach the game in a very different kind of manner. Speaking of north-south, Ryan Paling, Scott Lawton 2.0, he's really killing it out there.
He really
rated point, people are saying.
Yeah, I mean, he's either scoring great goals or just flying into the net and knocking it off the moorings there. But I mean, yeah, he's always had the speed. He's able to, carry the puck through the zone. It's just the finishing, especially when on a breakaway on a 2-on-1. But it seems like when he's in really close, that's when he scored one of the goals, if not both of them.
Yeah.
Michkov, the great play to take a hit to make a pass to him
Mm-hmm.
on the goal in Dallas there. Like, yeah, Poehling is a great fourth line center. He's a decent third line center. He's good at what he does.
Yeah.
Tortorella sometimes is forced to play him up in the lineup, but
well, hold on. Is Tortorella forced to play him up in the lineup? Well, Danny has forced him to play him up the lineup because he doesn't give him any other centers, which is by design.
Yeah,
but it's not Torts being like, oh, I love this guy, I got to play him at 2C. It's like, Cates is cold, Coots is injured, I got nobody else. Like, this is who I got to work with. It's not like, I don't think Torts is so in love with Ryan Poehling that he's like, oh yeah, this guy's a top 6 center. He's just like, I don't have any other setters. This is what I got to work with.
Yeah, that's fair, because Sean Couturier has definitely not been himself, or maybe this just is his new himself. He's looked fine between Konecny and Michkov. Maybe we'll see that, kind of bring him to life a little bit. But yeah, Poehling, he's the team's second best center now. I mean, like you said it, like he's behind Cates. Yeah. Cates kind of is what he is at this point, I think, which is a fine middle 6 center. Poehling's a bottom 6 center, but yeah, it is tough to watch, which brings me to the next thing about people saying that Torts has lost the room. This team's quitting on Torts. No, it's just a team that lost 2 very talented players in Joel Farabee, Morgan Frost. They didn't live up to their expectations, but they're middle 6 players. They're first round picks. They have talent. They lost Scott Laughton.
Kuzmenko is a talented player.
Kuzmenko's a talented player. Hathaway's out. He's definitely undervalued in the room and what he brings on the ice. Teams are always keyed in on what Hathaway's doing. He's always a little pest down there, and Ristolainen too. Exactly. So they're missing. Exactly. The glue guy that they traded away wasn't Laughton. It was Eric Johnson.
Eric Johnson.
Yeah.
No, they don't look like they've quit. Like, they look like they're trying. It's just that playing the Torts brand of hockey is really difficult. And I think on some level, they've realized that if they don't play that way, they lose. Like, the only way to win with this roster is to play Torts brand hockey. I feel for them. I do, because like you can see that they're still trying. TK finally got some goals, including that really weird bounce one in Chicago where it like deflected off hit anyway. But it's you just got to keep chugging through. And I think we talked about it last time. This is a chance for some of these young players to show like, hey, we know we're just playing out the string, but we still gotta go and put an effort in. And 90% of work is showing up. Like, if you just show up to the game and you're not actively playing like shit, you're doing your job.
Yeah, and I think that could have partially been what they were doing with Pelletier. It's like, all right, you're a new guy here. We're not playing you big minutes, but how are you going to work? How are you going to use your ice time? What are you going to do at practice? What are you going to do off the ice when you're not playing? And I guess, either he's impressed enough or Charlie pressed Tortorella enough in that media availability to get him on the third line there. But with the Tortorella brand of hockey, it's something I posted on Blue Sky on Sunday. You would expect a team like Tortorella's that preaches pace and endurance in skating and all of that to be good on back-to-backs, or at the very least decent. This year, on the second half of back-to-backs, they are 1-10-1. Goals for per game, 2.4. Goals against per game, 4.3. The one win was in St. Louis in overtime on day after Black Friday. Yeah, Michkov overtime winner. Like, that's bad. Like, I don't expect you to be 500 because it's definitely scheduled losses in there, but 12 games, you want to see 4 wins, 5 wins maybe, but one win in overtime. Just the Blackhawks were on a back-to-back yesterday too. They were in St. Louis. I don't know. It's just frustrating that like Tortorella preaches all of this and then those are the results.
So this is a nice little transition. Do you think it's a team problem or a goalie problem? Because who started most of those back-to-backs?
I mean,
like, it's usually Fedotov or Kolosov, right?
Probably Fedotov or Kolosov. And yeah, because they usually do give Ersson the first of them, which, yeah, I mean, the goaltending problem is a huge thing because it's tough.
They tried to not do it this weekend. they started Fedotov in Dallas, and then they had to pull him for Ersson. And then they're like,
Yeah.
all right, Feds, you're getting another shot at it. And like, it was not any better. So
and Torch said after the game he considered putting Ersson in again for the second period, and that has to take a toll on Ersson just mentally, like being like, all right, I'm the backup today, but this guy in front of me hasn't been great. He's not an NHL goalie. Like I'm going to have to be ready to go in, which is why, way back when I was like, all right, let's roll 3 goalies, give Ersson the full day off in the press box when he's not starting. But Kolosov is shit. Fedotov might be worse than Kolosov. I don't know who's a better goalie there. That's definitely
Kolosov. He's not good, but he has runway still in front of him. Like if he wasn't such a shithead, maybe he's not a shithead, but everything from the outside makes it seem like it's been like just really difficult to deal with. But I'm not, as a prospect, in isolation and ignoring all of the other like noise around him, there's still runway there to develop. I would not quit on him as a prospect in isolation.
Mm-hmm.
Once you factor in everything else that's happened this year and getting him over here and all that jazz, I'm over it. I don't want to deal with it. But
I don't want to talk about Kolosov for too long because we did that for months in the offseason. But looking at it back now at hindsight, thinking from Kolosov's perspective, he was like, all right, after the season in the KHL, I'm going to come over to North America. I'm going to be the guy that can be the backup in the NHL. If not that, I'll be the starter in the AHL. And then they get Fedotov over and they give him more money. They put him in pretty much right away. He was here for like a week before he was thrust into action. So seeing that, I can see why he was a little bit bitter and, played that out over the summer, saw how bad Fedotov was in training camp, was like, all right, I'm coming over. And since then, we haven't really heard a peep from him or any bad reports about him. So I feel like he maybe not got a bad rap, but it was just way too much under the microscope because that was the only storyline like we talked about in August.
Also, maybe he didn't like, to us, it's easy to understand why Fedotov got the contract he did because like that was the only way to get him over because, hey, this dude got arrested by the Russian government to serve in the military. Like, that is an extreme circumstance, and had it been any other goaltender or situation, I would understand Kolosov's like, frustration or whatever. But this is a pretty unique situation, and you need to kind of like have a discerning eye and be like, okay, you know what? I get why this is being done this way. But that's enough of Kolosov. They can't call him up anyway because that would be the last call up. So
yeah, I mean, at least I guess at least the one thing is we haven't seen any of Cal Peterson this year. I know he's been injured for the Phantoms, but those guys at least aren't making $5 million. I mean, they're making like $4 million combined, but they're not making 5. And Kolosov I think does have some runway. He's still young enough where he has if he gets the right coaching, he can be maybe a backup, maybe a 1B.
Ersson is still young enough. Like everyone's like, oh yeah, he's a bust. I'm like, Logan Thompson we talked about this last time. Logan Thompson has finally hit his stride. Joey Decord, like some of these guys, I think at 24, 25, you recognize if you've got a starting goaltender, like a bona fide 60-game starter on your hands. You might not realize you've got a 1A until they're like 27, 28 years old. So, like I don't think Ersson is a 1. I think we've established that. I would bet money on him being a 1B, which you can do at Bet Online, probably, if you make things up. But I wouldn't be surprised if he turns into a 1A down the line. But you mentioned coaching, and when do we start putting Kim Dillabaugh under the microscope that we've been putting Rocky Thompson under for the power play?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's a question I have lined up for my my stream with Jason Martinez coming up on Monday. It's probably going to be out by the time this podcast is out, so make sure you check that out on YouTube or in the podcast feed. But yeah, I think so.
Who is, for the listeners who don't know, who is Jason Martinez?
Jason Martinez, I feel like he's one of the voices of the Flyers. He's been post game host, I think, since like late 2000s, as the Flyers Daily podcast. So very excited to have him on the Broad.
And
the
former goalie, right?
Former goalie, I do believe. So he's one of the best goalie minds in Philadelphia. We're lucky to have Brian Boucher on the broadcast. We're lucky to have our
True.
own Broad Street Hockey insider that we can not name, and we're also lucky to
Yeah.
have Jason Martinez. So yeah, that
Yes.
would be a good goaltending conversation. But yeah, goaltending is the storyline in Philadelphia every year, and goaltenders take time to develop. Like Alex Lyon wasn't until last year, first year as a starter. He was 31, had a 904
Stolars.
save percentage for Detroit. Stolars. Like we've seen these guys. Like so, yeah. I'm I will say Harrison's not a one. I will say he's not a backup. I think he's a tandem starter. It's a matter of if he can be the guy
Healthy.
or
Yeah.
the second guy, which
Yeah.
you know, yeah, that's we'll see what the Flyers do with goaltending in the offseason, but
Yeah.
there's so much we can say about that.
I think health is the big thing with Ersson for me, because he did
Mhm.
have a groin injury and lost an entire season to that a couple years ago. And he's been in and out with injuries for the past 2 seasons. I think earlier this year was a groin injury, which is like concerning considering his history with it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we'll see. I always just think of the goaltending in Philadelphia as that Ancient Aliens guy, where he's like aliens, but goaltending. That's really how I approach it.
Yeah, good goaltending is alien to Philadelphia, so that's a good thing there.
Yeah.
Speaking of injuries and possibly being a problem for Ersson, injuries are becoming a bit of a problem for Rasmus Ristolainen.
Sure
He
are.
was day to day. He's now week to week. He probably won't play again this season. And
Who cares?
I think it matters for the trade market in the offseason. Like, you want to make sure he's healthy. Like, these teams may not be willing to trade for him if he's just going to be injured. Like, I mean, we saw the Flyers trade for Ryan Ellis, who played 4 games and then ended his career. Maybe that happened with Ristolainen. Maybe a team is willing to pay for that. But, maybe that either lowers the market in terms of potential trade partners and or just the potential price for him.
Yeah. I mean, we've talked about it. They don't have to move him yet. Like, it's clear that they should, because they have young prospects who are going to need ice time.
But not any that can replace him unless they think Hunter McDonald is ready, which make sure you check out Kyle's video on that from last week.
Yeah. And he's a left shot too, I think. But I assume I said the same thing about Zamula. Like, if you're going to be a third pair defenseman in the NHL, you better be able to play either side.
Yes,
that's how you have a career.
Gotta hear both sides.
Jesus Christ. But if it does affect the price, do you trade him for like less than he's worth because of the injury stuff just to clear a roster spot, or do you hang on to him and let him keep playing and hope that something else comes along by the next deadline?
I think more so the latter, and I think fans will be pissed about that if Ristolainen is on the roster when the season starts. But that might be the best thing for him, especially if he does not play again this year. If teams are wary about that injury, get him healthy, get him playing in the season, and you don't necessarily have to wait till the deadline to make the trade. We saw multiple teams trade for defensemen in like November, December this year. So if there are teams that are kind of, they have a deal in place but want to see what he can do, maybe if their season gets off to a bad start, or if they have an injury themselves, they pull the trigger on that. So my thoughts on Ristolainen trade is just going down a lot. I don't feel like Ristolainen's going to be moved in the offseason, and I'm growing to like Ristolainen. I feel like a lot of people have. His contract is not nearly the burden as we thought it would be. He's a solid second pair guy. I'm not sure who I want to see playing with him. Like Andre could be fun. York could be fun. We've seen Zamula. But I think Tortorella has said it. Briere has said it. It's hard to replace a big right shot defenseman.
I think also it's been reported that they were surprised by how low the offers were for Risto going into this deadline. So, if you're not forced to make a move, maybe you're better off just not. And you look at the deadline they did pull off with Scott Laughton, 0 points in his time with the Leafs so far. Like, that might end up being a coup. Like, that could end up being a really, really good deal for the Flyers.
Yeah, that's going to end up being a steal. Like, the Flyers play the Leafs on Tuesday night. Scott Laughton was traded to them to try to be their third line center. He's not on the third line. he's not playing center. He's on fourth line wing right now, which is realistically, as Flyers fans know, we love Scott Laughton, but that's his best role on a playoff team, I think, is third or fourth line winger. Yeah. Which, we wish him the best, but getting a first round pick and Gilbert, even if Gilbert is just a fourth liner, that's fantastic.
Well, here's the thing. How many goals does Gilbert have with the Phantoms? 2?
I think so. Yeah. I think he scored in each of his first 2 games.
Right. Do you know how he scored both of those goals?
Right there in front of the net. Get to the dirty area
of the net, which Gilbert probably isn't going to be a star by any stretch, but if he's a net front presence that can score in that area, the Flyers have lacked that since, and this is going to drive people nuts, James Van Riemsdyk was really good at that for a long time. Not so much by the time he got to the Flyers.
You got to at least give Wayne Simmons a shout out there. He was the best guy in front.
But JVR was after Simmer, wasn't he?
He was before and after.
Before and after? Okay. Yeah. I mean,
Simmons at the same time, maybe.
Okay. I mean, Simmons is like the peak, but I don't know. JVR scored a goal with his face that one time. I don't know if Simmons ever used his face to score a goal.
I think he may have actually.
Did he really?
I think he may have. But yeah, Gilbert's both of his goals on the power play too. So maybe they do call him up, give him that net front presence on the power play.
Should we talk about the power play now? Is that a good transition, or do you have any final thoughts on Risto?
No, that's fine. I was going to ask you where you want to go next. So that is a good transition to the power play. Well, first of all, I want to start this by saying the Flyers aren't special. My PP is 0 for the month as well. So they're not special being 0 for March. But 0 for March. They started the season 8 for 31. 26%, I believe, is the math there. What happened? Like, did they stop being so creative? Like, I don't know if teams keyed in on Michkov, but 0 for March is really bad. And there was one point in, I forget which game it was, but the Flyers got the puck on net. The goalie gloved it and then was able to throw it out of his glove to his defenseman. You see that? You can see that in overtime. You cannot see that on a power play. That is awful.
Where's the pressure? Where's the presence? God, we joked about this team trying to trade for Brady Tkachuk last summer, right? You imagine this team if they actually did have him? I'm like, well, I don't need another winger. Jesus Christ, they need a guy who can just plant his ass in front of the net and put a puck in there.
Yeah.
No, this is just laughable. Like I was listening to the PHLY podcast, and Bill Matz is like, they are the 33rd ranked power play over the past 3 years in a 32-team league because they're worse than the Yotes. It's been a while. Folks. Oh,
cool. Man, that was a good one. That was good.
That was a good one.
Oh, wow.
It's been a while, but the Yotes were better than the Flyers on the power play on average in the past couple of years. So I don't know, man. What are we doing here? What are we doing?
While you're talking here, I'm pulling up the team stats, power play numbers, expected goals for per 60 in the month of March so far on this for the whole league. The Flyers are in the middle of the pack. They're at 7.07, which ranks 19th. Shot attempts per 60, they rank 15th. Scoring chances per 60, they rank 20th. So,
and this is power play?
This is power play in March, yeah. So they should be scoring. They are getting a bit unlucky, but you can't just point it to luck when it's been this bad for so long. Not just this season, just beyond this season, and the past since Rocky Thompson has been here, they've been the worst power play.
Abysmal. And no improve. Well, I mean, the Islanders are about to set a record for worst power play ever. But it doesn't show any kind of innovation or like, I mean, the Chicago Blackhawks have like a top half of the league power play, right? Maybe it's just a finishing issue. Like the players just aren't talented enough to actually put the puck in the net. But I'm like, we talk about how TK was in his own head because he couldn't score a goal. Do you think the entire power play unit is just also collectively in their own heads? And they're like, oh man, we suck at this. And it just kind of snowballs from there. Like,
yeah, I think so. And, I don't know if they're practicing it enough. I don't know if they're keeping the wrong guys together. I don't know if they're not having the right guys together. I don't know what it is, because you want to say, okay, put your best guys out there and let them work, which looking at the top unit right now, it's Forster, Couturier, Konecny, Michkov, and Drysdale.
That's basically your best guys.
That's probably your best guys, so let them go to work a little bit. But yeah, I think it is. They're in their own heads. They're squeezing those sticks. They're overpassing. They're waiting too long to shoot. Like, I don't know. It's just there's no creativity. It's the same thing. Like, you watch other teams' power plays, and they're moving the puck around. They have space. They have time, and the Flyers just do not have that.
I don't have any of the data in front of me, but I feel like they've been doing a lot less of that slingshot maneuver where they like drop the puck back into their own zone, and then I feel like they haven't been doing that as much lately, but maybe I'm just not paying enough attention.
I think that's an accurate assessment. I think I would agree with that. I'm not gonna.
Okay.
I don't know if there's stats on that, but yeah, they have
Oh.
definitely been more. I think someone said it's like the flower out entry method on the power play, which all the guys are
Okay.
waiting on a line and they get in. But I mean, the entries are a problem. They had no shots on that 4-minute power play one of the games a few games ago. Like, it's just
Oh God, I
just
forgot about that.
it's pathetic, really. And
Oh,
I just looked up team power play percentages since Rocky Thompson took over in 2022-23 season. Some of the results through this year, the Flyers are dead last at 13.8%. League average, so like not league average, but like 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th are all around 21%. So they are 8% below league average.
median.
They're
The
two
median.
they're 2 points below the Ducks at 15.6. Like, the Islanders 16.5, and then 17.3, and then 18. Like, they're so bad, and it might be a talent issue, but like you said, the Blackhawks have a great power play. I know Connor Bedard is great, but Michkov is as good as him, I think, right now. Like,
The Red Wings for years had a dynamite. Why am I saying words weird today? What the hell is wrong with me? God, they had. I was gonna say dynamic, and then I was like,
that's what I
midway
thought you
through,
were
I'm
going
like,
for.
gonna say dynamite, and boom goes the dynamite. No, the Red Wings had a really good power play, even though the rest of their metrics were just god awful. But they were winning game. I think it was last season. Shane Gostisbehere, baby, he really put that power play together. Yeah,
And they've a great
power
power
play.
play this year. They're at
They do.
29%. That's the only thing keeping them kind of in the playoff race. They're not making the playoffs. But
No, they're screwed. Their schedule's too
I mean, they have
tough
Patrick
down the
Kane too.
stretch.
That's helping them this year.
Sure.
DeBrincat's great. Like, Larkin's fine, but yeah.
Yeah, but they were just awful at 5-on-5. So I think it was at the beginning of last season they had like a 38% power play through the first like 2 months, or just some like absurd stat, and I was like, well, that can't last forever. But
Yeah.
no, if these teams can put it together, the Flyers should be able to do something.
Yeah, and Rocky Thompson's job should not be safe. I know Jason McNeil wrote up a good thing on that last week about how Tortorella doesn't usually fire his assistants. I also didn't realize, I was looking into Tortorella. Apparently, he read the room and wanted to leave Columbus after the bubble, but Nick Foligno asked him to come back for another year. So I wonder if he might do that this offseason, but like read the room, be like, all right, let's try to get someone new in here. But also, like I talked about with Steve and Jacob and Thomas on that stream Friday night, it's like next year is kind of a whatever year anyway. So you don't want to bring in a new guy before you go all in the following offseason.
Yeah.
So it seems like Tortorella is just like kind of like an interim guy, but like a long-term interim guy to lead to the next one.
I could see that. I think it also depends who's available. Like, you look at what the Blues did,
Exactly.
and they were like, yeah, we've got Drew Bannister, we like him. Oh, Jim Montgomery's available? See ya. Like, they just were like, we appreciate what you did, Drew, but this guy's real good, and it's worked for them. They might end up, they're like 12-2-2 since the Four Nations break. So
yeah, they're in a playoff spot right now. I'm pretty sure they've been. I think I saw Dylan Holloway is like a point per game player since the coaching change. Like, yeah. But that's the big thing is, okay, fire the coach. the big thing is, okay, who are we bringing in to replace him? Is it going to be you just promoting Brad Shaw? Is
Another
David Carl
retread.
going to want to come? Are you going to bring in like Travis Green or Gerard Gallant or Bruce Boudreau, like one of those other old hockey men? Like, I feel like if Sullivan becomes available, yeah, go after Sullivan. If there's like a good coach that gets kind of cut short in the playoffs, go for him. But otherwise, stick with Torts. We've seen enough growth from him, from some players under him. I'd like to see Luchenko under him. I feel like that would really help him. But yeah, it's if Tortorella means Rocky Thompson sticking around, maybe that changes things. But
I mean,
I don't
Jay
know.
Woodcroft is another name that I'd be a little interested in. I don't know how he'd be away from like the Oilers.
Yeah, he's only coached the Oilers in the NHL.
Yeah.
Like,
I've made it clear that I love Andrew Brunette as an offensive coach. If you brought him in to coach the power play and the forwards, but he has clearly shown he cannot hack it as a head coach in the NHL. But
I mean, he was the head coach of the Panthers team that won the President's Trophy and just fell flat in the playoffs.
So that's the thing. It was Joel Quenneville's team starting that season.
But just for 7 games. He had 75 games there.
Yeah, and they won the President's Trophy, but a lot of that was Quenneville's doing, and then Brunette just kind of continuing that work. But he fell flat on his face in the playoffs. He just got outcoached by John Cooper in the second round.
In the first, second round.
Yeah, well, they barely beat the Caps. Honestly, that was a 6-game series, and we all watched it because our boy Claude Giroux was on that roster.
Yes.
But he just to finish the Brunette thought, Jonathan Huberdeau had a career year that season, hasn't replicated. So what does Brunette do? He goes to New Jersey to be the assistant coach to Lindy Ruff. What happens that season? The Devils are like a 115-point team or something. And then after that season, he leaves for the Preds, and the Devils fall flat on their face and draft 10th overall. Like he is so good at bringing out the offense and the scoring, especially on the rush, which Torts has said, like, that's kind of where we're going to take this team. He just can't seem to get the rest of it done. But anyway, that's a summer conversation.
Oh, I think that's a good conversation with Brunette. Like, I would love to see him in here as an assistant coach. Like, even if it's like you bring in David Carl as the head coach, you have Brunette as one assistant coach, you have Brad Shaw as the other.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that's a good group, especially if Tortorella is still not on the bench somehow, but like still involved in the organization. So he still has a say, whatever. I don't know how real that's going to be about him going upstairs. I went back and read some of Briere's introductory press conferences, and they talked about Tortorella, but like, I feel like they kind of had to, because Tortorella was on a 4-year contract and like had already kind of started the rebuild, and they respect his hockey mind. But
he was the first one. He was the first one in the organization to be like, this sucks. We got to tear this thing down.
Yeah. That's what the team needed. That's what the organization needed. Someone to say like, okay, this sucks. We have to rebuild. Chuck Fletcher's not saying the word rebuild. He's saying retool, but it's a rebuild. And like that's a good transition. Like, this is a rebuild, but how much longer can it be? Can we go next year with the same roster plus maybe a stopgap veteran C and a veteran backup? Like, can we do that? Hope Konecny keeps growing. Hope Michkov keeps growing. Hopefully Forster, Cates, Brink can be a solid second line caliber maybe. Like, is that what we're going for? Because we don't want to get into this rebuild where it's too long. We don't want to see the Red Wings. I mean, the Senators are finally getting there, but they've taken a while to get there, and they signed Linus Hallmark to get there as well. And the Sabres. I mean, the Sabres are a prime example of what not to do.
Yeah, we'll talk about them later. Well, I'll answer your question with another question. What is the other option? You spend a lot in free agency. You give up a lot in trades and hope it works. Like, how risky do you want to get?
My kind of not dream off season, but what I've been thinking about is, okay, go get Marco Rossi. Everything coming out of Minnesota says that he is not going to want to resign there. They don't want to keep him. So go get Marco Rossi. Then you have Rossi, Luchenko, Cates, Couturier, Paling as center options. There's 5. And then You bring home Claude Giroux to play that wing with Luchenko.
Oh,
That would be fantastic. And if you have to trade Risto out to do that, you do so. Like, I feel like you bring in a good veteran leader that is a veteran leader that can lead on the ice too. Like, you replace Lawton a little bit with someone that can put up 50 points, 50, 60 points still. Like, Drew's getting up there, but he still has that vision. So I feel like that would be one of my top scenarios is go get Rossi, go get Giroux, maybe add a defenseman here or there. But I feel like if you do that, add Luchenko to the roster, add Rossi. Rossi's a point per game player. Add a veteran winger like Giroux, and get a backup. I kind of want to see Alex Lyon back here. I feel like a Lyon Harrison tandem could be pretty good. Jake Allen's a free agent as well. He could be an option too. Like, I feel like you do that, and this team is right back on the playoff bubble.
Yeah, I mean, Rossi, I'd be in on. I have reservations about other stuff. It's just going to come down to contract term. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not signing any veterans or any big UFAs to a contract longer than 2 years. Like,
No. And I don't think a lot of UFAs are going to want to sign long term because the cap could keep rising. So this next offseason especially, you could see these guys taking, shorter term more money for 2 or 3 years and then waiting for that payday. But looking at the cap wages, free agents, like, I mean, top guys, you're not getting Marner, you're not getting Besser. Tavares, I don't think would come here, although I wouldn't mind having him for 2 or 3 years.
yeah, I'd sign Tavares to a 2 or 3 year contract. That's fine.
Maybe you get Marchand if he wants to come here. Ehlers is projected to get 6 years. That's too much.
These are all wingers.
Well, yeah, this is if you get Rossi. What's that second piece if it's not Giroux? Or Tavares if you don't get Rossi, or like I'm out on Sam Bennett. I don't think he's coming here anyway. Like Duchesne, maybe, but
short term, sure.
Kyle Palmieri, I don't think he's going to leave Long Island. Like Jack Roslovic, like Michael Granlund.
Roslovic, get out of here.
Yeah, there's not a lot of good options. So I think, and I don't mind that because I do trust Danny Briere in the trade market. I don't think he's lost the trade yet.
No,
maybe some wishy-washy win-win trades, but I don't think he's outright lost a trade yet.
The only one that could end up a loss to me is the Farabee Frost trade, depending on how their careers go. I don't think so. I think it's basically a wash at this point. But we'll see in a few years.
Like someone like he identified Sean Walker. Identifies someone like that that's kind of out of place on their team can be a middle six center for the Flyers for a year or two.
So all of my offseason would hinge on getting a center. Like if they miss on Rossi, if they're not getting a young top six center elsewhere, I don't think any other fringe move makes any sense. You bring in Giroux, cool, for what? You bring in Ehlers to do what? You still have no centers. You haven't moved the needle enough to solve your core issue. So are you trying to be better while you're still in the rebuild and now you have this veteran on it? Like it doesn't add up to me. I would just hope that, maybe some of their internal prospects are able to make an NHL jump. I know we keep talking about Alex Bump, but he is on the older side. I think he's like 21, maybe 22.
I think he's 22. I think he's played
22
4 years.
Yeah, he
no, he's 21. Or
21?
Yeah, he's gonna be 22 in November.
Okay, so he's on the older side, which means you would expect him to be a bit closer to NHL ready. Maybe you bring him in as your 4C, and then you've got.
He's a winger, though. I'm pretty sure. Like the only.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, he's a winger.
Oh. I thought
and that's the thing. Like, there's no other prospects besides Luchenko. I'm expecting to make the roster. Like maybe Bonk will, but there's no other forwards that maybe Barkey can make a push. But they have that in Pelletier. They have that in Hathaway. Like that's why next year is just like it's a season you want to simulate and get to the next offseason. That's why
kind of.
But Philadelphia fans are impatient. Briere wants to be patient. Maybe he tries to bridge that gap with a Rossi or with another young young center that could make
See,
some sense. Like
that's not bridging the gap. That is making a future-focused move with the rebuild in mind. That is not capitulating to fans saying, "Oh, we need to get better right now." We need to get better right now is signing an 7-year deal to some 28-year-old guy who is like good, but he's not gonna like dramatic. It's a Chandler Stevenson. It's like the Kraken signing Chandler Stevenson to a 7-year, $7 million a year contract. That is the absolute worst case scenario for the Flyers. So as long as they don't do that, I'm happy.
What do you think about like a Casey Middlestat?
Middling stats?
Yeah, exactly.
No. Like how much
they got him out of Buffalo? Like I don't think Boston would want too much for him. I'm not sure.
What did they give to the Avs for that?
That was the Charlie Coyle trade.
That's right.
Yeah. Middlestat is under contract 2 more years after this one at 5.75. He's 26 years old. Like that's someone who maybe, but I don't see Boston going the rebuild route, especially after
they need him.
Swayman. So
no, they need him.
Yeah. So Middlestat, there was someone else in my mind that was thinking about a trade. I mean, Pedersen's always out there. I really want to save Tage Thompson. I really want to save Tage Thompson.
I know you're big on the Tage train.
Yeah. I mean, I was shitting on Cousins, and he got out of Buffalo, and he's a point per game player pretty much in Ottawa.
So let's talk about Buffalo, because this is something that I've seen in Flyers communities. And it's like, oh, Cates, Brink, Tippett, Forster, York, we got to trade those guys. Like, they're fine, but they're not going to move the needle. They're fine. You know what they all have in common? They're all between like 24 and 26 years old. Except Forster, I think, is 23. Guess what the Buffalo Sabres did? They traded all of Sam Reinhart, Jack Eichel, Ryan O'Reilly, Brandon Montour, even Risto, and now Dylan Cousins in that like 25, 26-year-old range. I'm not going to say these are apples to apples comparisons, but they quit on these guys in their mid-20s, and then they go off to new places, and then they take another step. We have seen Travis Sanheim and Travis Konecny both take steps after like their 25, 26 years. Maybe it's a trend. Maybe it's becoming more common in the NHL. I don't know, but it is. When you give up on players like that, it's not good. Like not everyone has to be trade bait all the time. And now that Farabee and Frost are gone, we shouldn't be just like, okay, well, they're gone. Who's next on the list?
Yeah.
It's not conducive to building a good team.
And you do hear that. You're like, all right, York could be next. Tippett, I've thrown out there as options. Well, there's no one else to be a default trade piece. I mean, maybe you go with Paling and Zamula because teams were asking about them at the deadline. But yeah, Buffalo is a great case of what not to do. And I think there's something people overlook in a rebuild. People are like, all right, you got to get the draft right and you got to develop right. But I think the most important thing that fans don't realize, and I hope that organizations do, is evaluating players.
Mm-hmm.
You need to know what this player is, what he could be, and what other teams think of him. So if there's a player that teams value him higher than you think he can be, or if you already have that role filled with a Konecny, with a Michkov, with a Sanheim, you look to move him. Like, yeah, Cates is 26, Brink 23, Forster 23. You don't want to give up on any of those guys. Like, maybe the Flyers held on to Frost and Farabee a bit long, but I think they still got a good deal for them getting Pelletier and a second round pick. Like, I feel like that's a decent deal. And a third. And yeah, Farabee, $5 million cap hit. Frost was an RFA. He wasn't going to be signing anyway. Like, I feel like the Flyers aren't quite in that position yet. I feel like those are the guys. Add Tippett into that, but in these next few years, it's figuring out what Barkey is, what Bonk is, what Tuamala is, what, if they sign this college free agent, is, what Luchenko is, what these other guys they've drafted in the top rounds are. Like, that's something where I think fans don't look at. It's like, all right, what do these teams think of this player and what can we get for him? And like making sure you don't give up on them too soon, but also don't wait too long. Because relating this to baseball, like the Baltimore Orioles have a bunch of top prospects, and one of their guys was sent to the minors and was like, this sucks because if I perform well, people are going to say, all right, this is what you expect. And if you perform badly, it's going to be like, all right, he doesn't belong in the majors. And it's like, all right, they don't want to give up on the wrong prospect, but you also can't hold on to them too long and have wasted prospects, like with
Right.
Dominic Brown with the Phillies back in 09. Like that is a huge thing, and I think it might be dumb to trust I don't blindly trust the Flyers like development staff, but I feel like they've shown a good knack for what players they want, and that's something that having Tortorella here and it being competitive is huge for.
I think what's important, one of the things I always see, and I'll probably do an article on this during the offseason, it's like, the Flyers can't develop their talent. And that was a legitimate issue. One of the first things that Briere and Jones did when they came in is like, we recognize that this is an issue. Our players get to the Phantoms or they get to the NHL and they immediately plateau or regress. Like, we have a serious development issue within this organization. And they went about fixing it. They brought in like John LeClaire and Patrick Sharp to be like professional best friends with players. I think they brought in some other like skills coaches and stuff. I don't remember the entire wave of hirings, but I don't think they fired anyone especially, but they brought in a lot of new voices for new roles. And that's part of development too. And we won't know if it worked for another, 5-6 years. So to keep saying that the Flyers can't develop talent is like, yeah, Hextall didn't, Hackstall didn't, like, but that was a decade ago almost. You can't fault the current front office for those failures.
I went back here and looked up August 2017. Corey Pronman ranking every NHL team by prospect pipeline. Do you want to take a guess at where the Flyers were?
August 27. Was this after the draft?
After the Patrick draft.
8.
Number one. They were number one in the entire NHL.
Wow.
Nolan Patrick. They named Phil Myers there. Group includes solid first-round picks, middle-round selection to have trended up, and an undrafted free agent in Myers. That's when they had Rubtsov and all those guys, and they thought could be good, and they couldn't develop them. They had these prospects, they had these chips, and they couldn't turn them into either trade pieces or players on the NHL roster. And that just goes to show, yeah, sure, you can point at that and say the Flyers couldn't develop. Hextall's regime couldn't develop, and that was the main point of, you can look back and say Hextall's plan was rushed, but it wasn't really. It was rushed a little bit, but none of those prospects were showing anything. It was Konecny and Provorov, and that was
Sanheim,
really it.
I guess, but
Sanheim, but I think he was 2014, 2013 draft, so he was kind of a little bit older. But yeah, I mean, you look back at Jay O'Brien, you look at Nolan Patrick, German Rubtsov, Isaac Ratcliffe, like Wade Allison, all these guys that injuries, whatever, what have you here, just did not turn into anything. And the Flyers were unable to develop them, and they couldn't evaluate that and get rid of them before they expired. Like, that's just, it is what it is back then. And that's fair to point to past regimes and say, oh, this rebuild's whatever. We haven't won a cup in 50 years, haven't been to the Stanley Cup final in 15 years, haven't had, a string of success in the modern era, really. Like, they have not found a way to have success with the salary cap. They just haven't. So I understand these middle-aged fans being like, being sick of it, but this is a different regime. Briere, Jones, Torts, preaching patience. They're growing. So that's why I have more leeway for this team. We're in the second year of a rebuild. Rebuilds take 4 or 5 years to get to a team that's competitive. Maybe we see playoffs in a few years, but we want to be a team like the Hurricanes, who are in it top every year, hopefully a little bit better, hopefully a little bit more high skill, but you want to be those teams that can be in it every year, not just a team that's on the cusp, might be making a playoff push. You want to be a team that can be in it, actually.
Yeah. No, like you mentioned rushing it a bit, and to me that's signing JVR. That was them trying to rush it. And that is the one thing they need to avoid doing this summer, is signing whatever version of JVR is a free agent. So, yeah, no, it's they've been saying and doing the right things so far. Some people wish they'd go further, but like, how can you look at the way this team is playing and saying, "Oh, they said we're not going to tank"? They're bottom 5 in the league. What more do you? I swear to God, the Flyers are going to win the lottery. They're going to win the second overall pick, and people are going to say, "Oh, that sucks. This is the wrong year to win the lottery. What a bummer!" And I'll
Well,
like,
should have tanked next year for McKenna.
should have tanked for McKenna. Why didn't you do this in 2023? We could have had Bedard. I'm like, well, we got Michkov. Well,
Yeah.
why couldn't we have done it in 2024? Yeah, dude, come on.
Yeah.
Let's be real here.
Yeah, well, let's transition into that because Flyers
Mhm.
right now have the 5th worst per percentage in the league. But looking at the remaining schedule strength, they have the 2nd easiest schedule. The only playoff teams they play are the Leafs on Tuesday night here, and then Ottawa.
Mhm.
They play the Preds once, Sabres twice, Blue Jackets, Rangers, Islanders, and then the Canadians twice. So easy schedule. Sabres have a harder schedule. Predators have a harder schedule. So they're
Mhm.
not the Predators aren't catching them. The Sabres might catch them. Those 2 head-to-head games are going to be huge for that. And
Huge.
where are the Kraken at? The Kraken have the 2nd hardest schedule remaining. 2 against the Stars, 1 against Vegas, 2 against the Kings, who are on fire, and 1 against
Yeah.
Edmonton. So, and then Boston's 4 points ahead of the Flyers. So I think the Flyers are firmly in the top 6.
Mhm.
Maybe they get to that 5. Maybe they can somehow get to 4, but I'm fine, I think, with a top 6 because I think there's a decent group of guys at the top.
I would agree. Um, yeah. And I feel like someone's gonna fall in a way that people don't expect.
Yeah.
So
Do you have a guy yet, or do you have someone you would want the team to avoid? I know
it's
I'm not sure if
I
you've done
mean,
any digging yet.
not too much. I'm still in on Misa. I still think I
He's
think
rising
he's
up the
real good.
rankings now. I saw him
Yeah.
one by Smart Scouting.
Yeah. I mean, part of it too is Schaefer missed a lot of this season with an injury, so but Misa played. So you rank more highly, I guess, the guy who played. Um, do not draft. Mine's probably Roger McQueen. Like if he hits, you've been talking about wanting a Tage Thompson. There's your Tage Thompson. But the injury history, like I think it's back injuries and back surgeries, and we already have a player who's dealt with that. And this kid's 18. Like I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure it's worth the risk. But if the Flyers move back too, because I did a tankathon spin before the show, Boston won the 1st overall, and Anaheim jumped up to 2 because, of course, like then maybe because it's the age old question, like how far does a player of that skill level fall before a team takes the risk? You
Yeah.
know,
And
um,
with 3 first round picks, maybe I skeeted kind of jokingly that the Flyers are going to trade down, even if they get a top 5 pick. Like, but
eh.
if you could trade down, like there's enough people there where load up that cupboard. But
Well,
yeah,
I wouldn't go that far. I guess it depends who's on the board.
yeah,
Like my cutoff right now is probably Anton Frondel, maybe Caleb Desnoyers or Jake O'Brien in that, but I think Anton Frondel is kind of my like cutoff of the top prospects.
yeah. Let me see the elite prospects consolidated rankings if I can find them really quick. Because yeah,
Mhm.
do you think if the Flyers somehow go up to 1, like 1, 2, or 3, would they take Schaefer? Or do you think they definitely key in on a center?
Well, I don't think they can get to through.
What I mean, if
There's
they had,
only one way they could get to 3, and I don't think that'll happen.
yeah.
But if they get to 2, if they get to 1, that's a fascinating question because
Mhm.
Schaefer looks real good, and they said they wanted to build from the blue line out. But
Yeah.
man, are they hurting for centers? And one of Misa or Hagen's would be such a fit for them.
I guess a better
So,
question might be like, how far would Martone have to fall for you to take him? Like if
um,
they have like 6 and it goes Schaefer, Misa, Hagens, Frondell, Desnoyers, the top centers are gone. Like, do you take Martone? Do you trade down? Do you reach for Jake O'Brien? Like, I don't think those guys would go top 5, but it's possible, and it's possible the Flyers end up with pick 7 or they move down even further. Like, I mean, we'll talk about this closer to the draft, but I mean, yeah, I'm starting to look at those prospect rankings more and more because there's not a lot stuff on the ice happening for the Flyers to look into.
Yeah, no, we are very much ramping up the drafts readings and whatnot.
Yeah.
All
right. Yeah. Let me pull up.
Who's your guy?
I don't have a guy yet. I think it's Frondell, but
okay.
I like Higgins. I feel like Higgins falling is probably an overreaction. I know college players can be iffy, but I feel like you can never go wrong with one of the top players that was going into the year. Draft lottery simulator here on the screen. Flyers have the 5th best odds, 8.5% at number 1 overall. Let's do it. San Jose, Pittsburgh that moves up to 2. Flyers go down to 6. Of course, Pittsburgh. It's going to be Pittsburgh or Boston or like the Rangers to move up or something dumb like that.
No, you're exactly right. Every time I run this, Pittsburgh, Boston, and the Rangers win more times than the Flyers. So frustrating. No, the Flyers are going to get to... Well, wouldn't it be hilarious if they get to the 4th worst record or 4th best odds, and again they fall to 5? Same thing that happened in 2022 when the Devils jumped them. Like, it's...
I would definitely laugh, Joe. I would laugh. It'd be pretty funny to me.
Yeah, well, hopefully whoever they pick that this time would sign with the team.
Yeah. All right, let's close it out here. Upcoming games. We have Tuesday night.
Oh, I just ran it myself and the Rangers jumped up to 2. Sorry, I got to close this. I got to close this window. I can't do this anymore.
It's cursed. Tuesday at the Leafs. Thursday at home against the Canadiens. Saturday at home against the Buffalo Sabres here.
Yep.
What do you think they're going to do against Scotty Laughton's Leafs?
I think the Leafs are going to just demolish them. Like, it's going to be... Scott Laughton will get his first point with the Leafs. It'll be a shorthanded breakaway goal. Score? I mean, they just got beat 7-4 by the Blackhawks, and they have like no one. So if the Leafs show up to play, this could be like a 6-2, I'll say.
Yeah, I think like a 5-2 Leafs win. I don't think it's particularly close. Hopefully Scotty gets his first point. I think I saw he had like a deflection with a high stick goal called back or something. So hopefully he gets something there.
He brought the Flyers curse of not being able to score with him to Toronto.
Yeah. All right, and Thursday at home against the red hot Canadiens, who I think are currently in a playoff spot, possibly.
They are.
Yeah, that's going to be a game the Flyers are going to need to lose. I mean, most of these home games they have to lose, but Canadiens now lost back-to-back games. I saw they're getting Caden Gooley back on the road trip. I think it's going to be a tough one, like a 4-3 overtime loss.
That sounds about right. I'm going to go by... I was going to say 4-3 overtime loss, but
say it then. Say it.
I want to be different now. 5-3 loss, empty netter.
All right. Then Saturday against those Buffalo Sabres, who are they're just awful. Sabres are especially awful on the road. They did just win in Winnipeg though. It
was Comrie. It wasn't Hellebuck.
Okay.
That's why.
Yeah. I think the Flyers do win this one. Saturday afternoon game. Got to get some kids in the building. Get some good vibes. Give me a 5-2 win.
Oh.
Yeah. Michkov gets 2.
Wow. Okay. I think it'll kind of depend if Josh Norris is back or not. That would probably make a difference.
I guess.
I guess. I mean, they've got Ryan McLeod playing 2C right now, so like, yeah, it's not exactly ideal. Yeah, 6-5 overtime loss.
That would, I mean, give the Sabres as many points as they can get. So I would not mind that.
Yeah, it's literally a 2-step forward, 1 step back right there, isn't it?
Yeah. And then the Flyers finish out the homestand against the Predators on Monday. And that could be a big game for the Tanks too. But we'll probably record
Big swing.
either before that. No, then Flyers are off for like 4 days, so we'll probably record after that. So home game against Nashville on Monday. I don't know. Nashville is a weird team. Like
What
they
the
show up
hell, right?
against weird teams. How they 4-1 loss in St. Louis. They beat Toronto at home 5-2.
Yeah. Roman
Saros
Yossi's out, right?
Roman Yossi's out. Saros is still pretty good. 3-2 overtime loss.
That sounds about right. I'm going to give it a couple more goals and say 4-3 overtime loss.
Yeah. How do you see the Flyers splitting the goaltending the rest of it? Do you think they should go like just every other to give Ersson a breather? Think they should see if Ersson can be a 1A?
I'm betting they're going to go 9 out of 10 Ersson, maybe
No,
8 out of 10.
No, they can't do 9 out of 10. They can't do.
Sure can. There's
I would
one,
say maybe
there's
7,
one
maybe
back-to-back.
7-3. There's one back-to-back. Yeah.
I think they go 8 and 10, especially if Fedotov is that fucking bad. Also, I have a much more important question for you about the next 4 games that we're going to watch. These are the final 4 games of March. Do the Flyers register a power play goal in the month of March?
Yes, I think they get it. I think the bit is going to be over. I don't know when. Let me see these teams.
I know exactly when it's going to be. 1 minute left in the third period.
Overtime of the Predators game.
No, 1 minute left of the third period of the Predators game. They're down by 1. They pull the goalie at 6-on-4 and they score. 6-on-4 and they score. That's going to be how they score a power play goal. Yeah. Literally right under the wire.
Yeah, I could see that happening. Penalty kill for the Leafs. Where are the Leafs at? Leafs are 16th. Canadians.
That's the worst. That's the worst of the teams coming up, by the way.
Sabres are 20th, and Predators are 10th penalty kill. So, who is the Preds?
Oh wait, no, hold on. Sorry, the Sabres are the worst. They're 20th, 76.9%.
Oh, penalty kill, yeah,
penalty kill. And then the Preds, Habs, and Leafs are 10, 12, and 16.
Oh yeah, that's the Saturday afternoon game. Michkov's getting a power play goal there. Calling it now. Bet that at Bet Online. Shout out them again to
shout out Bet Online. Bet Michkov. He's going to get 60 points this season. No, he's not. But
10 more points. Love it. I do think John Tortorella has a lot of blame for Michkov not being in the Calder conversation, but that's a conversation for a different day.
Yes, and I'll just leave this little kernel. Who the fuck cares? I don't give a shit about the Calder. Like, that is not going to be what impacts whether he's going to have a good career or not. So I am just over the Calder conversation, because even if without the Torts antics, Dustin Wolf has basically carried the Flames into a playoff competition, like contending for a playoff spot.
Yeah.
Macklin Celebrini is sick. He's so fun to watch. And Lane Hudson is doing things that not just a rookie defenseman, but defensemen in general have not done. So like, it's a tough field, and I think even without the Torts antics, Michkov would still be on the outside looking in.
Yeah, fair enough there. Good point there to end it on. Joe, where can the people find you?
You can find me at jfdmarini.bsky.social. Where can they find you?
You can follow me on Blue Sky at ryangilbert.bsky.social. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the podcast on Apple, on Spotify, most importantly on YouTube. Getting the climb to 1,000 there. We're at 879. We're climbing pretty steadily, so make sure you're on board on the YouTube.
We've got a couple good streams coming. Well, they'll already be up by the time this goes live.
We'll still have some good streams coming up. We're doing Jet Luchenko's apparently going to play in Lehigh Valley this weekend. We'll do a shift by shift of that. So make sure you keep it tuned to Broad Street Hockey wherever you listen to your podcasts. And all right, until next time, thanks for listening.
Go Flyers.